Yes,
Yay!
What is up, everybody? First and foremost, everything is new, except for us and background and everything like that. I just need to confirm that we are in fact live. Everything is working okay. So let me just confirm that here on our web browser. But basically, I'm using new software, new everything. We're trying to upgrade the whole system, and I just need to make sure that everything looks and sounds okay. So, live audience. Okay, good. We got visual confirmation. Can you guys hear us and see us okay? And the fade in, people are saying yes, few, great. Okay, so we're just going to continue as though everything is working. If for some reason during tonight's show there are volume discrepancies between our guest tonight, between us, or some of the videos that are playing, please let us know. We obviously just want to kind of keep an eye on everything. This is pretty much a new setup entirely, and I'm freaking out because, like, if it works, I'm gonna be so excited. If there is a failure somewhere down the road here in today's show, I'm gonna be so upset. I'm gonna be so sad because I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work.
It's gonna be smooth
flawlessly. Just to give you an idea of some of the cool things that we're dealing with now, we've got lower thirds.
Oh,
look at that. My name is Ethan. You can follow me on Twitter here.
And my name is Kim, and you can follow me on Twitter here.
That's the camera that you want to look at too, by the way.
I was trying to look on there.
Yeah, it's going to be really easy to look here because everything's so fancy.
I'll get this,
and new.
You guys.
You'll get it.
This is day one.
Regardless, we are also a little bit rusty because we have not done Ginger Runner Live in close to a month.
Yeah, it's been weeks.
Basically, Ginger Miss episode with our wonderful friend Gary Robbins was our last episode. Then we went on our holiday break that we do every year. And we wanted to take a little extra time this month just to make sure that this software was working and things could be turned up a notch. Because one of my goals for the new year was to try something new, whether it was technology-based or with the channel. And so far, I think this is going to be pretty damn awesome. And we're going to show you some pretty cool things on tonight's show with our guest and stuff like that. Speaking of our guest, he's joining us from Portland, Oregon, live. We're going to talk to Yassine Diboun tonight, all about his recent finish at the Hurt 100, which he's done a number of times. It's a beautiful, beautiful race. We're going to talk to him all about his experience there, as well as what it's like to train during the worst months of the year here in the Pacific Northwest for an event like that. As well as some other things that I'm interested to talk to him about, because it's been a while since he's been on the show. But we're going to talk to Yassine about a whole bunch of things on tonight's episode of Ginger Runner Live, episode number 194. But I say let's just start this thing, right?
I think that's a great idea.
All right. I just want to make sure that I know what I'm doing as we click into the intro video. I'm hoping this works. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 194. The episode begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! I hope it works. I really do. I think it does. And we're going to... Kim, you're keeping your eye on the chat room, right? Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 194. I am your host. Wait for it. This will get much better. Okay. I am your host, Ethan Newberry, aka the Ginger Runner.
I'm Kim Tashima Newberry, aka Mile Long Legs.
And Kim, you are in the chat room right now.
I'm in the chat room, so if you guys have questions for our wonderful guests, which will be appearing on screen here in just a second, Yassine, please ask them in the chat room. We'll be pulling them throughout the episode. And
just to prove that we are live, I'm going to do something that I'm actually pretty excited about as well. Look. It's an actual... It's right over your face.
I keep going the opposite way.
That is a live chat room there, friends. That is a live chat room. You are able to see the actual YouTube live chat room over the screen. I'm not going to keep it up the entire time.
It should be on the other side of the... It should be over your face.
I literally figured that out about 30 seconds before we went live. And I'm freaking out about it because it's really cool.
It's pretty cool,
So next week's episode, we'll have that sort of featured. For those who are listening to the podcast, I brought up the live chat room on screen. People can look at it and read it, even in the archive version, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, on tonight's episode, before we even introduce our guest, of course, we have to do a couple of thanks that we do at the top of every Ginger Runner Live, and those are to our wonderful top-tier Patreon supporters. We have 3 of them that we're going to be thanking tonight. Rick Bjarnason and his team over at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They are helping with a whole bunch of website stuff that we're currently working on. They created the Gingermas website in December. He and his team are very talented, and we owe them a huge amount of gratitude and thanks. And Rick is also a big ultra runner. He's training for some huge races this year, Sinister 7, Fat Dog 120. We're going to talk to him hopefully in the coming months about that. Again, maybe even get him on the show and talk to him about what it's like to balance a professional career as well as all the ultra running. So thank you, Rick. Chris Lee over in Hong Kong, big shout out to him, who finished his very first marathon this last weekend. Congratulations, Chris Lee and the entire team at Trailblazer over there. Beautiful space they have in Hong Kong that's essentially a place where anyone who's from Hong Kong, lives in Hong Kong, or visiting Hong Kong can go to this storefront and plan out their routes and discover trails around the area. It's really cool what he's doing there. And he just ran his very first marathon this weekend, which is pretty amazing. And finally, Mr. Brian Sands. A big thank you to Mr. Brian Sands, top-tier Patreon supporter, who not only finished his first marathon in October, but is training for his first ultra marathon. And we're going to actually get to see him in person at an upcoming trail camp, which I'm very excited about.
Very soon.
Big shout out to Mr. Brian Sands. Okay, without further ado, we've been on hiatus for a little while, but now that we're back and we've upgraded our technology, I think there's no better friend of ours and athlete and person to introduce to all of you. He's a fantastic athlete and an even more fantastic human being. And this is... People love this guy because he is kind and generous, and his story is inspiring. Without further ado, Mr. Yassine Diboun.
Yay!
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
How are you, Yassine?
Great. Thanks for having me on again. It's great to see your faces.
Yours as well, my friend. I just want to make sure before we even get into the interview that everyone can see and hear us okay. I know that the delay is just a couple of seconds, so we'll wait for the chat room to confirm people can in fact hear Yassine. Yassine, you can hear us okay, right?
While we're testing, I just wanted to say thanks for the kind words, and right back at you. You guys are such a inspiring pillar in the ultra running, trail running community. So thanks for all that you do.
It's our pleasure. This is very fun for us. But you and I guess we can start here as Kim waits for the confirmation.
Yeah, I think everybody's saying perfect. Yes, we can see and hear.
This is great.
All good,
I love it. But Yassine, we can start here. You and I got a chance to work together on a really cool project, Behind the Run, which is a series that my vision was to create a number of episodes following athletes of all levels, all abilities, and you were the first episode. You and I worked on that project for a long time, but it's about a very personal story with you. Can you talk a little bit about how you grew and came to the point where you were able to talk about recovery and growing out of addiction and stuff like that, and kind of tell us a little bit about your story?
Thank you. Yeah. I guess first off, thank you so much for making the video. The response I've gotten from has been amazing. I think a lot of people, for what we do, just think that, oh, you must have just been this great runner through high school. Maybe you ran, at a collegiate level, and then you just kind of carry that on into, ultra running and whatnot. Definitely not the story. And, I was a pack-a-day cigarette smoker up until I was 25 years old. I, used lots of drugs and alcohol to, medicate, so to speak. And I was heavily addicted. And when I finally got sober is when I found endurance sports. And I started off with triathlons and kind of gradually worked towards marathons and road running. And then I discovered trail running and never looked back. But, it was something that I kept private to myself for so many years. I mean, over a decade, really. And I came to a certain point where it was like, even people in my own community here in Portland, I would tell some close friends and people that I could relate with. And then there were a lot of other people that I couldn't remember. Did I tell that person? I was kind of always at this struggle of like, why am I keeping this to myself? Especially if it's something where by me outing myself, by me sharing my experience, strength, and hope, that I can actually go ahead and maybe help save somebody's life. I mean, that might sound a bit dramatic, but it very well, there's somebody could be at that jumping off point right now and find, wow, he turned his life around. Maybe I could do the same. So that was really the kind of the impetus that kind of motivated me to just want to come out with it. But I also, I'm really grateful to have you and the following that you have, because I felt like, I think a lot of people in general think that, what we do is a little bit extreme, right? For lack of a better term.
Sure.
And a lot of people might think, well, he's, was in a very destructive and addictive type of person maybe, and now he's in a very destructive and addictive type of sport. I think that's what the general population might think. But the following that you have, I think a lot of the people are like-minded in terms of realizing that there's more to it than just signing up for another race and getting into that obsessive and compulsive aspect of it. There's more to it. There's more of a spiritual component. There's more of a meditative. There's more of a connection to nature, to others. And that's why I'm really grateful that you were able to share it on your channel. And the response has been amazing. It's opened up doors for me. I'm currently working with a recovery group in Portland where they actually bring van full of people to do workouts twice a week.
Wow.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The amount of emails and messages from every avenue has been truly heartwarming and very confirming that I made the right decision. And if I haven't gotten back to you, I probably have seen your message. Thank you. Thank you all for the comments on the YouTube page. And I really appreciate it. And yeah.
Well, it was when you approached me about the project that, like, I was honored. I was honored that you would even approach me about it. And I think that, our audience and everyone that watches Ginger Runner videos or even watches Ginger Runner live, they're the best people and the most respectful and understanding group of people I've had the fortune of meeting, whether I meet them in person or even just here online and stuff like that. So your story, Yassine, has continued to inspire countless and will continue to do so. That's what I love about it. And I as much as I can't imagine how difficult it was for you to even talk about it publicly, but you will help far more than you will ever know. And I think that's what's really cool about this. I want to remind everyone that, of course, we are live. This is a live show. We have our live guest, Yassine Diboun, talking to us tonight. We're going to talk to him all about the Hurt 100, which he just completed, and I'm very excited to hear more about that. But, of course, we are live, and we have questions for you, Yassine, already.
Yeah, so if you guys do have questions, just make sure to ask them. I will be polling them throughout the hour. If I don't ask them right away, feel free to ask again a little bit later. And the one question that was relevant to what we were just talking about, Yassine did actually answer.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, it was a question from Amber. Amber had asked, since the release of the film, have people been reaching out to you for thanks and just to chat about it? So.
Absolutely. Overwhelming amount of people sharing, maybe it's not drugs and alcohol, but other issues, and thanking me. One woman was in the process of writing her own memoir, and she thanked me for being open about it, because it's kind of helped with her propulsion to kind of share her book. So I mean, yeah, absolutely the right decision, and lots of messages coming in all the time. Even I go to races locally, and people come through the aid stations that I'm volunteering at. Hey, I saw your Ginger Runner video. Thank you so much. I really relate. Had people come up to me at the Hurt 100 just before the start line, and say, hey, we have a lot in common. And it was pretty heartwarming to be able to pass each other out on the trail multiple times and just kind of share a couple inspiring words with each other, like, hey, we're hurting, but this is a lot better than our past life, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, the following that you have, the audience that you have, it's amazing. I mean, I don't even know how many views it has now. It's probably got to be upwards of 30,000 views or so. And if you haven't
10
seen
million, Yassine. 10 million views.
Oh, then I need to be getting a little cut of that. Then.
You got it. I'll write you a check. Based off YouTube's adpocalypse, which has been going on, I think we made $1.10. It's all yours, man. It's all yours. I want to start talking about Hurt 100. This is one of those events that Kim and I had the privilege of witnessing once, and it changes you, even just as a spectator, as someone on the sidelines, and as a fan of ultra running in general. You have now run it a number of times, and everyone that I know that's run the event has talked about the ohana that's on the island, the family and the people, and it was incredibly welcoming to us. But what was it like to return to an event that you have done multiple times, and what drew you back? Why did you return?
Yeah, it's a good question. The first time I ever finished, I finished in 23 hours, fourth place. It beat the crap out of me. I was in a lawn chair just before sunrise, and my wife came over and daughter, and I was on the verge of crying. And I said, no matter what I say, don't ever let me do this again. And okay, so then 3 months later, there was the lottery, and I saw everybody. Well, I guess back up at the banquet, I really experienced that ohana that you talked about, and I talked to a couple friends, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get the band back together next year." And I just felt this community around me, and I met all these people that had, "Oh, I'm 6 for 10," or and things like that. And, it was just something that I felt connected to. And you're in Hawaii in January, which is a great place to be, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
but,
no doubt.
3 months later, I saw everybody signing up for the lottery. And, I think it was Ken Michael posted something on Facebook. Okay, Hurt lottery roll call. Who's in? And I looked at Erica and I was like, you want to go back to Hawaii? And she's like, yeah. So all of a sudden we could so quickly forget how brutal it is. And we just remember the walking in the sand at barefoot and hanging out on the beach. I unfortunately did not finish that one. I got really dehydrated. I made a number of mistakes in that race. So of course I dropped out at mile 60. I was like throwing up. It's still the only course I've ever thrown up on.
Wow.
And I dropped at mile like 61 or so. And of course, now I have to go back. So then I can't end on that note, right?
Yeah, of course.
I ended up going back the same year that you went and made your awesome movie on the Hurt 100. And so that year I had a very good race. I felt like nutrition, hydration, pacing, everything lined up. And, I finished in 22 hours, which was over an hour faster than my first attempt, got me third place. And I was very content with that. Why not just stop there?
But you didn't.
I love the Hurt Ohana. I love being in Hawaii in January. And I think that's what can be the addictive thing about these races too, is that you always feel like you can do a little bit better. And I'd like to get another chance at it, because it's like you don't ever get to put yourself in that situation where you have the opportunity for everything to line up and for you to seize the moment and go for it and really try to maximize your potential. So I wanted to try it again. And I thought 3-time Hurt finisher has a nice ring to it. So now for sure I'm done.
I feel like you say that, but
see you in Hawaii next year.
Yeah, we'll see you in Hawaii in January next year.
I don't know. Like I said, I've learned to never say never in the ultra running world, but I'm pretty sure I'm definitely taking a break from this one for quite a while, if not ever, forever.
Before we start talking a little bit more about this year's race, a big shout out to Avery Collins and Darcy PQ, who both won.
Absolutely.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Hurt 100, just go to Google and type in Hurt 100. I promise you, your mind will be blown by the technicality of this course. A loop-based course. We've had guests on in the past who have won the race, who have the course record. That's Gary Robbins. And it is one of those courses that you look at and go, I never want to do that. but I kind of do, but I never want to, but maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
It is gnarly. It is absolutely gnarly. So big shout out to
check out the video that you made too. I watched that a couple times before my race again because I hadn't seen it in a while. So I just kind of watched it again, and I think you do a good job at showing a lot of the roots and kind of capturing some of the essence of the race.
But even as we were kind of spectating and getting out a little bit onto the course, it does not do it justice. Like
No.
Paua Flats is one of those areas which it's indescribable and pictures and video don't do it justice. It's beautiful. It is unlike anything on earth. But man, it is gnarly. Super technical.
They put some boards over top of that now.
Oh, they did.
They built like a the Hurt community was not happy about it, but they put some boards as like a walkway over top of it. I thought the awesome thing was in the pre-race meeting, they said it's forbidden to run on the boards, so you still have to run on the routes alongside of the boards. And it was
that's good.
It was kind of all ribboned off, so you know, we still get the full experience. Nobody's running on any board platforms.
So no boardwalk. That's great. I love that they were like, "You're gonna see a boardwalk. Do not use it."
Right.
We are live again. We have questions from the live chat room. What do we got?
I also think we may have a potential Jeff Browning appearance in the chat room as well.
I hope so. If that's the actual Jeff Browning,
I know I'm always a little hesitant because we've had some things happen before.
Shout out to Bronco Billy there, Jeff Browning. What's going on, man?
So we've just talked about the difficulty of the Hurt 100 course. Steve in the chat room asked, is Hurt 100 the most difficult race that you've competed in?
Good question.
That is a great question. I would say, yeah, it's up there between, you know, UTMB and Hurt are the toughest ones I've experienced.
What sets it apart?
I think Hurt is more difficult because mentally you have to just be so on it. I mean, you know, UTMB, it was very difficult, but you're doing this iconic loop around the Alps, around Mont Blanc. So it's really beautiful. And Hurt, you know, the night section is so long. It's so long. The roots and rocks, for some reason this year, it seemed like they were more slippery than past years for me. Like the humidity and condensation kind of creates this slime, so to speak, on top of the rocks and roots. And I mean, I should have wore soccer shin guards because I've got just bruises and cuts on my shins and upper ankle bone. And, you know, yeah, I can get into that later. But I think just knowing what I have to go back out and do again and again and again and again, you know, I was getting pretty negative out there, which is not usually like me. And I mean, I even said out loud a couple times, like, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, so I think I would say Hurt is up there with the most difficult so far.
Let's go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say, Jeff mentioned in the chat room, he just said, Amen Yassine, mental mind game at Hurt.
Yes, it is. And I mean, Jeff completely, I was thinking about the year that Jeff and I did it, the year that you were there. And I mean, you could tell Jeff was just so locked in and dialed. And I felt like my mind game was really strong that year as well. And I just was a little bit off this year. And there were definitely a lot of factors that threw me off. One of them being the missile alerts.
I didn't want to bring that one up yet because I knew that was a huge part of the experience for all the runners. I'm glad that you actually brought it up because I think that may be a good segue. Before we get into that, Jeff Browning was the winner of the Hurt 100 when we were there as spectators and filming, and it was incredible to see him dialed all day.
Yeah.
He would come into aid stations and would just be smiling and like joking with everyone, like, "Hey, anyone got any hamburger? I just need meat." You know, just eating meat and bacon, and then be like, "All right, see you guys later." And the whole day we're like, "How is he so chipper? Like, how?"
Yeah.
We know this course tears people apart, right? It's challenging not only physically but mentally because you are doing a loop and it's humid and hot. It was really neat to see. All right, so Yassine, you brought it up. I'm really curious about it. So this year's race was unlike any other previous year of the Hurt 100 because of the missile crisis. There was an alert that went out to everyone's cell phone in Hawaii that seemed to panic everyone, rightfully so. It was a terrifying message when we heard about it. What was it like as a runner how did it unfold for you?
So the race went off, and I felt like we all did a great job at starting easy. We were hiking Hogsback as opposed to running it in past years, and I felt really good about getting down to the first aid station. And there was a group of us all running together: Avery, Trevor Fuchs, who's won Wasatch a couple times. Who else was there? There was a couple other guys, and there was just a group of us, and we were all just chatting, having a great time. The sun came up, and we started heading towards Nuuanu, which is the second aid station. And we get down there, and it started kind of spreading out a little bit, but I still felt good about like kind of holding back and not getting caught up in that first loop. It's really easy to get going too fast on that first lap when you're tapered and the sun comes up and you're feeling good. So I get down to the aid station, and as I was leaving, a volunteer pulled me aside and was just like, it was a lot of commotion. It was being real kind of quick through there. And he pulled me aside and he said, I just want to let you know that there's a missile alert from North Korea. And we are told to take shelter. And I kind of like smiled at first, and I was waiting for him to smile. And it's just something you never hear, like, ever. I've never heard anybody tell me that in my life. And I kind of just like looked at him, and I was just confused, and I was just like, are you serious? And he said, yes, I'm sorry. Everybody's very scared. And he had like an accent. He was a foreigner. And I just was just like, all right, I'm going to just go to my family then. And I just started running. And I think at that point, I might have started pushing a little bit too hard, even though I knew in the back of my mind, like, we're probably going to be okay. Like, I have no idea. Like, we're probably going to it's going to get intercepted, or nothing's going to happen, or I don't know. I just felt confident that we were going to be okay. But I think at the same time, wanted to get to my wife and daughter who were at the nature center. Right. So for many people on the island, it was about 38 minutes of panic or uneasiness, I guess. And for me, it was about an hour and a half, because I had an hour and a half till I got to the aid station. And so during that time, I think I was pushing hard. I mean, literally, I was thinking I was hearing things in the sky. I'm like, is that Alaska Airlines, or is that, a jet going off to fight, or is that a missile? Or, I had really a lot of moments of fear and sadness, as well as anger, of just being like, man, our country's messed up, and like just going into this resentful state of mind, and then just being like, and then also going to a place of acceptance of just like, you know what, well, if this is how it's going down, I guess I'm doing what I love, and I'm out here in a beautiful place on the trail. And, it was just a weird mixture of emotions that was going through my head. And then I would see all these people, these runners, and they'd be like, hey, Yassine, good job. And I would just be like, hey, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's like a missile alert. And they were just like, what? Like, to see their faces change. It was just like, and I was, a couple of runners, we kind of went back and forth, or like, should we even tell people? Like, should we just like let the aid station tell them, or what? Like, it was just this weird energy on the trail. Like, so a lot that's really cool about Hurt is that you get to see each other on the trail in these out and back sections, and you get to encourage each other and smack high fives with each other. And that was definitely a very strange time that I hope I don't have to ever experience again.
I mean, I would hate to think that anyone would have to experience that again. I mean, Kim and I had a long conversation when it happened, when we read about it, because we have many friends that ran Hurt, and you're one of them. And we just couldn't imagine having received that sort of update. And for the runners especially, like, when you found out, is your goal no longer the race, and it's just to get to your family? Like, I imagine for you. Right.
I was ready to drop out. Like, when I got to the nature center at mile 20, I was fully ready to just drop out and like seek shelter or whatever we needed to do.
Yeah.
And, I got there and everybody had already had about an hour to like process that it was a false alarm. And I got
Got
there
it.
and I was just like, I saw Erica, my wife, and my daughter Farah, and I was just like, what happened? Like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, it was false alarm. It's just somebody made a mistake. And, and then, so they, and like I said, I think I may have just pushed a little too hard
Mm.
on that section, especially the final downhill coming into the aid station, because I think I rolled in like second place maybe. And I think subconsciously I was just kind of being pulled to get there to my family ASAP.
Do you know how it affected other runners' races, or did the race hold people at an aid station for a certain amount of time, or how did it unfold for like in real time for everyone else?
So I heard some like kind of like toward mid to the back of the Packer group got held at the first aid station, and they were instructed to go into a gift shop shelter during the race. And so they stopped everybody there, and then they told them that they have an extra half hour for cutoff time.
Mm.
But we had a majority of the runners had already made it past that aid station, right before they stopped it, and then so um, I did hear some. I heard some rumors that a couple runners dropped out of the race because of it. Other than that, I think everybody was just in this state of confusion and just weird, kind of just questioning things. Like it was kind of the first time where I've ever felt like, man, this could be bad. This could be it.
Yeah.
It was just really weird. Like to think about that. Like it was. I just kind of, like I said, I kind of swung from these super sad feelings to scared to angry, and then to just acceptance.
It's so strange to think that
Yeah,
even
it was
during
awful.
100, during 100, you're already doing these
Right.
roller coasters, ups and downs, physical, mental, everything, and then to throw in this weird monkey wrench is I can't imagine having to experience that. So Jeff Snyder, who's also a local and has run the race before.
I was gonna say we have a longtime viewer and supporter Maggie in the chat room as well, who also lives in Hawaii, and she went through a similar situation. She wasn't running the race, but she was out doing her own run, and just hearing her story, she's just saying how terrifying it was. And as you just mentioned, Jeff Snyder as well had confirmed that yes, some runners got held at certain points during the race.
But that all being said, and having that amount of weight already on you from the race, you were just crushing it up front, hanging for second, third for a majority of the race. How did the race start to play out later in the event? Because you started to peter off a little bit, but at the same point, you still crushed it in the end. So what sort of happened towards the last like 20, 30 miles or so?
In the first 20 to 30 miles, I started having some foot problems, which I don't normally have. And, I wear Innovates, and I wouldn't really, it was probably the best shoe for that course, in my opinion. I wore the Rock Lights, and they have like a rock plate and like really good lugs. And, I always tell athletes that I coach too, it's like, you might not ever get blisters or foot problems, but bring an extra pair of socks, bring an extra pair of shoes just in case. Same with shorts or any sort of gear, because something might happen on race day that doesn't normally happen to you. So this was a perfect example of that. I didn't normally get foot problems, and luckily I had a fresh pair of Drymax socks and another pair of Innovates that I was able to switch out into at mile 20. It was at 40. It was mile 40, and that felt really good. That felt good, really nice. And then it just started getting so hot, as it always does. And I didn't do as much heat training this year, so I feel like that I've kind of chalked it up to because I went down a week before the race this year, and I just thought, well, I don't need to go to the sauna and stuff. I'm going to be there a week early. I'll get acclimated and do some runs while I'm there, and just go to the beach a lot and lay in the sun. And so I feel like the heat and humidity have really got to me this year. Although I will say I felt good about staying on top of my hydration, and I was using Tailwind with ice and water. and that was really great. Helped out a ton in terms of, because the year I dropped, I got way behind on hydration, and I ended up getting like heat exhaustion, dehydration, and I dropped. So I was happy about that. And then just as the race went on, I think I just felt that the toughest part of the race, 60 on lap 4, 60 to 80. I just had my good friend Stephen Mortensen of Pursuit Films. He helped me. He went from 60 to 67 with me, and I just think that section just took a long time. It just started to get dark. I was kind of tripping over stuff, slipping all over the place, falling, and I just kind of like a boxer almost. It just kind of started like, if you ever watched a boxing match, you see the boxer kind of take a turn for the worse, where he just starts getting kind of beaten down a little bit, and he starts staggering around a little bit, and it's like, oh, he's been injured a little bit, he's been hurt, and I just kind of had that stagger going a little bit. It's nightfall, and took a couple tumbles that really just kind of, I don't know, they just kind of shake your spirit a little bit too, and you don't have as much confidence when you're going down some of these downhills. And so I just kind of progressively and gradually just slowed down, and it was just a matter of time, before some of these other guys who played it a little bit cooler during the heat of the day. I mean, that's the thing. It's like when you're racing at the front, you got to take risks sometimes,
Sure.
and you just got to go for it sometimes. And there's always that fine line. It's like, well, if you pull back and hang back too much, you're gonna miss opportunities. And I mean, those guys and gals that are pushing the envelope, and the guys that finished ahead of me at Hurt, man, kudos. Avery ran. He's a fellow Innovate team member of mine. He crushed it, and it was great to run with him a little bit. He actually even got off course for about a half a mile, which was impressive for him to get off course for a half a mile and fight his way back and then finish hours ahead of everybody. I mean, he's a real talent. He's a beast. And but some of the other guys that finished ran really smart races and really gutsy races. I mean, Trevor Fuchs, for example, was many times telling me he was going to drop out. And I mean, that's the thing, is you run together with these people a lot. You help each other out. You're like, don't do it, man. Don't drop. You got this, man. You're going to come back around. It's going to cool off. Just get some food. The cramps are going to stop, and you're racing against him, but you're trying to help him at the same time. So
right.
He ran a gutsy race, and he rallied, and he finished ahead of me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and that's the thing about Hurt. That's what I love about it. It's everybody is pushing the envelope, and the year Gary got me hooked on this race, basically. I mean, he's helping me, he's encouraging me as I'm going. Same thing. You're all helping. I think the thing that sums it up for me is one year Jason Hind and I were running together, and I stopped at a stream crossing to cool off. I put my handhelds down, I knelt down to the ground and dunked my whole head in several times, and I was like dunking my body in, and I just assumed that he had ran off. And I get up, and he's looking at me. He's like, "You ready?" And I was just like, "Dude, you don't have to wait for me. It's a race." And so that just goes to show you that sometimes in a race like this, you are more powerful together than separately trying to do it. So, and it's just the ohana, it's there's more to it than being competitive. It's being competitive with yourself, the elements, the trail, your mind. It's, whew. Thankfully I don't have to do that one again.
That we know of.
Right.
We'll wait and
Nobody
see.
believes me when I say that.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me that you will never do it again, like 2 years ago, and you signed up again.
My good friend and business partner at Y East Wolfpack, Willie McBride, he's just like, yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll see about that.
My wife was just like, yeah, right, we'll see.
I do want to acknowledge in the chat room that people were saying that him and our audio was a little bit delayed. I am aware of it on our end, and it's just it's something that I think I need to kind of fix the bug. So Yassine's audio is totally fine. I think ours is delayed. It's not matching our lips, which it's totally fine, and I'm acknowledging it. I know, and I'm going to see if we can fix that for future weeks. Not sure what it is on this end, but every once in a while it'll like get right back into sync, and everything will be fine. Okay, I want to talk. Well, one, I want to congratulate you, Yassine, because 6th place at Hurt 100 on a hot day, a weird day with weird things that obviously happened that were outside of your control, but regardless, it's an incredible finish, man. Well done.
Thank you so much, and thank you so kindly to all the volunteers out there, all the racers, anybody that even towed the line and didn't finish. Kudos to you. That takes a lot of courage to toe the line at one of the toughest 100-milers out there.
No doubt.
And to finish it, you know, some people finish just minutes before the cutoff, and that is so emotional. And, you know, and I experienced a lot of emotion when I finished, which is not normal. Like, I don't know, for some reason, I was out there in the middle of the night with my good friend and pacer, Travis Lyles, and I'm always a proponent for just like good, positive self-talk, you know, don't go to the negative. Don't feed that bad wolf. Feed the good wolf, as I always say. And I was feeding the bad wolf like crazy. I was like, I don't think I can do this, man. I don't think, you know, this is ridiculous. I kept out loud saying that, and Travis coached me through. He got me there. And when I finally, he kept telling me, like, we're going to be sitting by the pool and by the beach before you know it. Just, you know, and he got me through. He used some of his tactics. He knows me. He's been on the PCT with me when we did the Oregon PCT. And when I came in and turned that corner and finally saw that sign, I just started like just crying. And then every time somebody came up to me and started talking to me, I just started crying. You saw some of the pictures, you know, and it was just a war out there. And, you know, given the missile thing and everything that I went through, I just kind of purged at the end. And it was, you know, it was beautiful. It was good to feel my emotions. And that was, you know, something that I never experienced when I was drinking and using drugs all the time too. It was always just keeping everything down. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to feel your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to get angry and not have to constantly fix it all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to remind everyone that, of course, we are live. My voice is going to be a little bit out of sync, but Kim's, maybe yours is perfectly in sync.
No, I'm pretty sure mine is also out of sync.
Yeah, it will be. Do you have questions from the live chat room?
Yeah, you seen a little bit earlier, you're talking about your nutrition. You're doing the tailwind with ice in it. There was a question from Wing in the chat room saying nutrition and GI issues seem to be the thing that take people out at Hurt. Any tips on best ways to fuel in that heat city?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had very little hints of it myself too. I felt it coming on. I felt like bloating and things like that, and I was able to keep it at bay. But you know, there's a certain science to this nutrition, but it really comes down to you and your preferences. And so for me, what I was using, I just happened to be using like shot blocks, fruit, lots of fruit, potatoes and salt, things of that nature, Pringles, and the tailwind. And later in the race was using, early in the race, I was using some of those Cliff nutrition pouches, such as the beet and banana and the sweet potato with salt and those kind of things. And then on the aid stations, I was just taking in little portions at a time. So I think that's where a lot of people run into issues is they're like, I got to eat, I got to get these calories in me. And then they take in too much that your gut can process. And then you end up getting bloated and having all these GI distress. And so that's one thing I was focused on was if I'm eating a little protein bar or something, I just take little nibbles of it. Or I was eating rice balls with salt in them. I was eating, you know, the gourmet stuff they have at the aid stations there. It's just like, it's insane. They have like these quinoa cakes and lentil masala cakes. And
yeah,
I mean, you've seen it. It's like,
yeah, the aid stations are crazy.
It's crazy there. I mean,
the big menus that one aid station.
Yeah, I forget the name of the chef at that aid station, but it's like, I remember someone saying, hey man, if you go to this aid station, whatever you want, they'll make it. I was like, oh, you know, that's cool. Like quesadillas and that sort of thing. Like, no. Whatever you want, they will make it. And if they don't have it, they will get it. And I was like, what? How? It's in the jungle. Yeah.
That's a good question, though. I mean, the nutrition piece is a huge component. And luckily, I was able to hold it all together on that for that 25 hours.
Nice. One thing that I wanted to talk about, because you live in a unique part of the globe, and especially in comparison to the hurt part of the globe, they're pretty different at this time of year. So you live in Portland, Oregon, Pacific Northwest. What is it like, and how do you train through these winter months for an event that takes place in early January? Like, how do you train through the holiday season, and what are your secrets?
That's a really great question as well. It's very difficult, I think, not only just from the weather standpoint. I think, like you said, you mentioned going through the holiday season. It's very difficult. I mean, Santa's about to come to our house, to our home, and we have people visiting from the East Coast. And one of the things that I did, which I tried to do, was emulate what did I do 2 years ago when I had the good race there. When you were there, what did I do? I went to the Quad Dipsy, and I used that as a training race. So I replicated that. My family and I did a road trip on Thanksgiving where we took our two dogs. We rented a minivan, actually.
Right.
And we took our two dogs. We took the back seats out of the minivan and laid a bunch of blankets down, took our two dogs. We went on this road trip to the Redwoods, and we got into some warmer weather. And I was, before you know it, running the Quad Dipsy shirtless, which was great, just chasing some sunshine. So that was one thing I did. I did a little bit of heat training in terms of not going to the sauna so much. I did go to the sauna. I go to this Knot Springs, which I took you there, Ethan. Last time you were
amazing.
visiting. So I did. Thank you. So I went to the sauna a couple times, few times, but mostly I did a lot of running with more layers on.
Got it.
Which turned out to just being more wet layers of rain,
Wow.
So
yeah,
it is really a challenge trading here and then getting plucked from wet, cold Pacific Northwest and plucked into and put into the tropical climate of heat and humidity. So, and I don't know, that's kind of one of the things I like about it too. It's this kind of extreme, like all of a sudden, you're wearing 2 pairs of tights and next thing you know, you're in a pair of split shorts only.
Well, I mean, it's like you've been able to do it for a number of years and still succeed. And our friend Gary Robbins has also been able to do that. He's been able to go from North Vancouver winters, which are a little bit worse than ours, and to Hawaii and deal with the humidity. And Jeff Browning, another example, someone who deals, well, I know he doesn't live in Bend anymore, but he lived in Bend, and they get solid winters every year. And he went and he nailed it. So are there any like tools of the trade that you recommend? Like, I mean, we had some people earlier before we even started, like, hey, recommend what sort of shoes or any of that sort of thing. Is there any little secrets like that you can recommend?
That helps. So yeah, so if you can, so when you're dealing with ice and snow, and if you're having to navigate that a lot and you're not really running, that is a very good point that somebody brought up. So one of the things, we got a little bit of an ice storm. I don't know if you guys got it in Seattle, but we had a few weeks there of some snow and ice that made it very difficult to run. Luckily, Innovate makes a shoe called the TheraClaw, which is a warmer shoe to keep your foot warm, and it also has built-in tungsten carbide tips on the bottom of the shoe. So it's basically like built-in micro spikes or built-in nano spikes on the bottom of the shoe that's built into it. I mean, there were times I was running down the trail. It was sheer ice, and I was literally trying to slip, and I couldn't slip.
Wow.
So that helped. That was definitely something that helped. I'm not a purist either. I don't just run trails all the time. I'll run roads, and I'll run hills on the roads, on paved roads, and downhills and stuff like that. So incorporating some road running, chasing a little sunshine, going to the sauna, wearing extra layers. Those are some of my secrets, I guess, some of my tips that I do. And then, I always think about what Carl Meltzer used to say when the year that he did Western States. And everybody wants to really focus on how to acclimate your body and acclimate your system physiologically for the heat.
Mm.
And I think there is some validity towards that, but I think it's also very taxing on your body, and people will overdo it in the sauna, and people will overdo it in that. So that can really tap your energy levels too. And what he said, I think it's better to have a good cooling system when you get to the race.
Got it.
Instead of focusing it on the front end before you go so much, focus on a good cooling system during the race. What's that look like? Does your crew have spray bottles of ice water that they're misting you down with? Do they have, towels that have been soaked in ice water that they can wrap around you at the aid stations,
Cut
things
off
like
T-shirts that say Beast Mode.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, stuff
It's
like
one of the
that.
best cooling methods I think Yassine has is this green. It's awesome. It's a cut off T-shirt that just says Beast Mode on it.
Oh, I was thinking.
Oh, and the weed
Spray bottle.
Yeah.
spray bottle weed killer, like full of ice cold water and stuff like that.
There was also a question from Skylar in the chat room, just wondering if you do any sort of cross training as well when the weather's not so great.
Absolutely. I do a lot of cross training. That's basically my job, is to lead functional fitness boot camps through Y East Wolfpack. So we go into like corporations around Portland that have gyms, and we do kettlebell workouts. We do HIIT workouts, circuit workouts. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Oh, somebody stole the show here.
Farrah!
And speaking of cross training, this is a big cross training, is chasing her around.
Yeah.
And caring for her and trying to keep up with her. So cross training for sure.
I don't think she can hear us, but do you want to introduce who this is? She's pretty awesome.
Yep, this is my daughter, Yassine Diboun. So say hi.
Hi.
She's 7 years old. She's in 2nd grade, and she is an awesome runner too. Watch out for her. She already told Magdalena Boulet in New Zealand last year that she was going to break all her records someday.
Oh,
That's awesome.
That is so cool. And while we have her here, that dovetails nicely. Someone mentioned that in the chat room.
Nice.
It's my favorite word. But what I wanted to talk about is family, and in this case, at Hurt, you're dealing with the missile thing, the race itself. You have your wife, your daughter there. How important is family for you, whether they're at aid stations or they're at the events? How important is family for you when you embark on these incredible journeys?
Yeah, I love having my family there. I mean, anytime you can see a familiar face. I mean, you both are ultra runners. You know that when you pop out of the woods and you can see friends and loved ones, it makes a huge difference rather than just not seeing them or not seeing familiar faces.
Sure.
Farrah, actually, we rehearsed some stuff in our room like many times before the race. For example, I had a handheld that had a shot block in the handle. And, I had instructions for her. So when I come in, I'm going to take off my pack, and you're going to, fill up the handheld for me. You're going to do that. You're going to take my pack. So she had all these little instructions to do, and we practiced it over and over again. And she was flawless. She was awesome. I came in, and like Erica too, my wife, she was great. She knew exactly, and this is my 13th finish at a 100-mile distance.
Right.
So, and Erica's been there for the majority of them. She knows me. She knows the questions to ask. She's like, "You want me to hit your legs? You want me to flush your legs?" I'm good. She had all my stuff ready. She had stuff charged for me the next time I came through. She had, Farrah was awesome. She's like had everything ready. So it was like, and then to give him a kiss, that was part of our routine too. It was like, all right, I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to give you a kiss. And then we did that. And that gives me just that extra surge and energy knowing that I got them in my corner.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, in the chat room, people are saying you got to train the crew, and I love that I love that you did rehearsals and stuff like that before you went. And good job, Farrah. I don't think you can hear me. Good job. Good job. Way to help out your dad.
And Erica, my wife, she knew me before I started even running.
Right.
So she knew me before I started running, and so she is really good at pulling me aside sometimes and just letting me know, like, remember what this is all about. This is not about like winning. like, you got to remember there's more to it. And she, you know, she's good at reminding me that.
It's awesome, man. You have an incredible family, and it was really neat to see some of those photos that came out of Hurt just last week, and to see how much you need them and they support you, and it's a beautiful thing. Again, I want to commend you on your incredible finish at a really difficult race.
Yeah.
And thank you for being so open with your story, your journey. For those who maybe are watching Ginger Runner Live for the first time, maybe this is their first time seeing or getting a chance to interact with you, Yassine. Where can people find you on social media? You and YE's Wolfpack and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. It's just at Yassine Diboun at Twitter and Instagram, and easy to find on Facebook. And then my business is Yeast Wolfpack. It's at Yeast Wolfpack, WYEAST Wolfpack. So yeah, thank you for, like I said, for all that you do, and it's great to see you guys, your smiling faces, and not having to call you up in the middle of the night asking if I can crash on your floor.
I forgot about that. I totally spaced on that. That was really funny. But it worked out. It totally worked out. You got your passport and everything.
But you had to coach me through that when I was kind of freaking out. For those of you that don't know, I showed up for UTMB at the airport in Portland, and to find out my passport was a week expired. And the only place I could get an overnight passport was in Seattle. So I took a train from Portland to Seattle, called Ethan frantically. Hey man, I made a big mistake. I'm so embarrassed. Can I sleep on your floor? Showed up at midnight. And you guys really took care of me, actually, on my birthday, too. Took me out to dinner, and I really appreciate that. And it was great.
No problem, man. I mean,
it's great to see you and your little family, too, though, and hang out with Gus and be in your place and be in your studio where all the magic happens.
You got to see it all, and it's a testament to people of the Northwest, and, again, the community, the Ginger Runner Live community, and everything like that. It's one thing that we really love about it, is that friends support friends, support friends, support friends, and this community is nothing but friends, and it's pretty cool. Thank you, Yassine, for taking the time out tonight to join us on Ginger Runner Live, full new tech edition. Thank you for being patient too.
Did you say full nude?
No, full new edition.
Full nude.
Full nude edition. Cover your eyes, Farah.
Well, I hope it all worked out, and thank you for having me. I'm flattered and honored.
Of course. And for those who are maybe watching for the first time, thank you for tuning into Ginger Runner Live. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy Mondays to join us and to watch what we're doing here on air. I want to remind everybody. I love Farah's laugh. It's adorable. Remind everyone that we are here every Monday live at 6 p.m. We're back for the new year. We're almost at 200 episodes, so that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have to figure out something to do for the 200th episode. But we are going to be doing some more chat with Yassine in just a couple of minutes for the Patreon members. If you would like to support this channel, help keep the lights on, the mics hot, upgrade the software, like this is a big thing that we were able to do because of Patreon supporters, you can do that. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get to participate in every post show that we do here on Mondays, and there's additional content. You'll get Where Dreams Go to Die before everyone else, all sorts of cool things. So go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner if you'd like to join us in just a couple of minutes with more Yassine for the post show.
And it looks like our audio is back to being good.
Yeah, I figured out what it was. I had the camera buffering. For some reason, it was slowing down our camera, but everything else was fine. And I turned that off, and I think we're good to go. I think we're locked in, which I'm so excited about. And yeah, it's pretty cool. What this is like. We're just scratching the surface of what this software can do. So I'm gonna try to go all out with it. Am I forgetting anything before we go into post show? Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, all Patreon supporters. We'll see you guys in the post show. Otherwise, subscribe. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers.
Something special is gonna happen.
Something special is gonna happen, and I already know what it is, and I'm terrified. Ugh. But I won't announce it until we get there. I think that's pretty much it. Let me just I gotta take out the lower third, and I gotta do this other thing. I think we're good. All right, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Train hard, race harder, party hardest, and I think this should go now.